I remember the sky full of fire. I remember counting the parachutes and knowing there would not be enough. I remember empty bunks in the morning and new boys at breakfast who would be gone by Christmas. But most of all, I remember the day the silver Mustangs came, the day we stopped dying alone. My name does not matter because I am not one man. I am pieces of many men who flew those missions over Germany in 1943 and 44. I am the voices of waist gunners and ball turret gunners and co-pilots who made it home and those who did not. Everything I am about to tell you happened to someone. The aircraft were real. The battles were real. The fear was real. Just not all to me. I am a fictional voice built from many real stories. But what I describe, the P-51 Mustang and what it meant to us, that is history. That is truth. So let me take you back to when we flew deep into Germany in daylight with no one to protect us all the way there and back. Back to when a 25-mission tour seemed like a death sentence because the odds said you would not make it. I flew in B-17 Flying Fortresses with the 8th Air Force. We called them forts because they had guns everywhere, 10 50 caliber machine guns, armor plating. We flew in tight formations so our combined firepower could protect us from German fighters. It was not enough. The Luftwaffe knew how to kill us. Messerschmitt 109s and Focke-Wulf 190s. They would come in groups, sometimes 20 or 30 at a time. Head-on attacks from 12 o'clock high where we had the least firepower. They would focus on one bomber, then another, methodically tearing apart the formation. Our escort fighters, the P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings, they were good aircraft, brave pilots. But they could not go all the way with us. Not to Berlin. Not to the deep targets. Somewhere over western Germany they would have to turn back because of fuel. And then we were alone. That is when the killing really started. I remember a mission to Schweinfurt in October of 1943. Ball bearing factories, critical targets. We lost 60 bombers that day. 60. Each one carried 10 men. You do the math. The sky was full of burning aircraft and falling bodies and parachutes that sometimes opened and sometimes did not. I remember flying home in formations that looked like Swiss cheese, holes where bombers used to be. We would land and count who made it back. Then we would go to the barracks and see the empty bunks. Someone would pack up their things, letters to write to families, a watch to send home, a photograph of a girl. And the next morning there would be new crews, replacements, boys who looked younger every time. We would not learn their names right away. There was no point. Wait until they made it through 5 missions, then maybe learn their names. The chalkboard in the briefing room told the story. Mission list with crew numbers, and next to some of them the letters MIA, missing in action. Or worse, the ones that just got erased. No body, no parachute, no trace. We knew the numbers. The statisticians told us. For every 100 bombers that flew deep into Germany without long-range escort, 6 or 7 would not come back. Over months, over a full tour, the odds were against you. Some crews made it, many did not. And then something changed. Winter of 1943 into 44. We started hearing rumors about a new fighter, an American fighter that could go all the way to Berlin and back. At first we did not believe it. Every aircraft has a range limit. It is physics. Fuel burns. Engines need it. You can only carry so much weight and still fly. The P-47 Thunderbolt was already a big fighter, heavy, and it could not make it all the way. But the rumors kept coming. A fighter called the Mustang, P-51 Mustang, built by North American Aviation, and the secret was a British engine, the Rolls-Royce Merlin. the same engine in the Spitfire, combined with an American airframe that was slippery through the air, low drag, efficient, and drop tanks. External fuel tanks they could carry under the wings and drop when empty. That was the key. Carry extra fuel out, drop it when you need to fight, then still have enough internal fuel to make it home. The range was incredible. Over 1,500 miles with drop tanks. That meant Berlin. That meant anywhere we needed to go in Germany, they could be there. We started seeing them in early 1944, silver aircraft with long noses and bubble canopies. They looked fast even sitting still, and they were. Over 400 miles per hour in level flight, faster than the Messerschmitt 109, faster than the Focke-Wulf 190. And they could turn with them, dive with them, climb with them. The pilots called us the big friends. We called them the little friends. I will never forget the first time I saw them deep over Germany. It was March of 1944, a mission to Brunswick, aircraft factories. We were 2 hours into the flight, past the point where the P-47s had turned back. We were over German territory now, alone. Or so we thought. I was in the right waistgun position, scanning the sky, looking for the small dots that would grow into fighters. My hands were cold even through the gloves. At 25,000 feet it was 40 below zero. The oxygen mask frosted up. Everything was loud. The engines, the wind, the rattling of the aircraft. Then I saw them. High and to the south, a group of single-engine fighters. My heart jumped. I called it out on the intercom. "Fighters at 4 o'clock high." We tensed, waited for them to turn toward us, waited for the gun positions to call out their attack run. But they did not turn. They kept flying parallel. And as they got closer, I could see they were not Messerschmitts. They were P-51 Mustangs, our little friends. They had come all this way. They were still with us. I felt something I had not felt in months. Hope. The Mustangs spread out around our formation. 4 of them stayed high as top cover. 2 dropped down to fly alongside us. I could see the pilot in the nearest one. He waved, just a small gesture, but it meant everything. You are not alone. We are here. 10 minutes later, the Luftwaffe came. They appeared out of the sun. A dozen Focke-Wulf 190s diving toward our formation. The bomber to our left, slightly ahead. That was their target. I swung my gun around, started tracking them, but before I could fire, the Mustangs dove. 2 P-51s came screaming down from above, throttles wide open. They cut in front of the German fighters. I saw tracers, bright lines of fire. One of the Focke-Wulfs rolled inverted and dove away, trailing smoke. The others scattered. The German fighters tried to reform, tried to set up another attack, but the Mustangs were all over them, turning, chasing. The sky filled with contrails, white lines showing every twist and turn. One of the German fighters came at us from the nose, 12 o'clock level. Our chin turret gunner opened up. So did the top turret. But the Focke-Wulf kept coming. I could see his wing guns flashing. Then a Mustang cut across from the side, a deflection shot. Perfect gunnery. The German fighter staggered. Pieces flew off. It rolled left and fell away. The Mustang pulled up hard, climbed back to altitude, went looking for another target. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The attack broke off. The German fighters retreated. We continued toward the target. But I knew they would come back. They always did. Over the target we faced flak, anti-aircraft fire, black puffs of smoke that appeared around us, shrapnel rattling off the aircraft skin. You could not dodge it. You had to fly straight and level for the bomb run. The bombardier needed a steady platform. Those were the longest minutes of the mission, flying straight while the flak bursts walked toward you, hoping the next one would not be the one with your name on it. We dropped our bombs. The aircraft lifted as the weight came off. We turned away from the target. Time to go home. That was when the Luftwaffe hit us hard. They had been waiting, gathering. Now they came in force, 20, maybe 30 fighters, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs together. They knew we were most vulnerable right after the bomb run, when the formation was still getting organized. Our Mustangs were outnumbered, but they did not hesitate. I watched a P-51 take on 3 Messerschmitts at once. He turned inside them, got on the tail of one, short burst. The Messerschmitt went down. But while he was focused on that target, another German got behind him. I was screaming into the intercom, even though there was nothing I could do. The Mustang pilot must have seen him because he broke hard left. The German overshot. The Mustang reversed, and now he was behind the Messerschmitt. But his aircraft was smoking. The first German had hit him before going down. The Mustang was damaged. He could have run, headed for home. No one would have blamed him. Instead, he stayed. He climbed back up, rejoined the formation. That is when I realized something. These pilots were not just doing their job. They were protecting us, personally, like we were their brothers. Another bomber in our group took hits. I could see the damage. Number 3 engine on fire, feathered prop. They dropped out of formation, started losing altitude. That made them easy prey. 2 Mustangs dropped with them, escorts. They would stay with that crippled bomber all the way back to the coast if they could, protect them from the German fighters that hunted stragglers. I learned later that bomber made it home, crash-landed at the first airfield they saw in England. The crew survived because of those 2 Mustang pilots. But another bomber was not so lucky. I watched them take a direct hit from a German fighter. The nose section just came apart. They went into a flat spin. I counted 4 parachutes. 6 men gone. A Mustang pilot saw it too. I know because he went after that German fighter like nothing I had ever seen. Aggressive, angry. He chased that Focke-Wulf down through the formation, through our own gunfire, and shot him out of the sky. It did not bring those 6 men back, but it meant something. It meant someone cared. Someone was there fighting for us. The battle lasted maybe 15 minutes. It felt like hours. When it was over, the German fighters were gone, retreated. We were still flying, still in formation, heading west toward home. The Mustangs reformed around us. I counted them. We had started with 8. Now there were 6. 2 missing. I hoped they had landed somewhere safe. Engine trouble or damage. I hoped they were not gone. As we crossed out of Germany, more P-47s came up to meet us, fresh escorts. The Mustangs waggled their wings, a goodbye. Then they turned and headed back to their base in England. I wanted to thank them, but there was no way, just the radio, and that was for official communication only. So I just watched them go, those silver aircraft that had saved our lives. We landed 3 hours later. 13 aircraft from our group took off that morning. 11 came back. Better than most missions, better than it used to be. At debriefing, we talked about the Mustangs. Everyone had stories. They were everywhere, aggressive, skilled, and they stayed with us the whole way. That was what changed everything. Not just that they were good fighters, they were, but that they were there, deep in Germany, over the target, on the way home. Everywhere we went, they went. The Luftwaffe could not ignore them. Before the Mustangs, German fighters could focus entirely on bombing us. Now they had to fight the escorts first, and the Mustangs were winning those fights. Over the next months, we saw the difference. Bomber losses dropped. Not to 0. Men still died. Aircraft still went down. But the odds shifted in our favor. By D-Day in June of '44, the 8th Air Force had air superiority over Europe. The Luftwaffe still fought, still took their toll, but they could not stop us. And the P-51 Mustang was a huge part of why. The numbers tell the story. Before long-range escorts, bomber losses on deep raids could be 8 or 10%, sometimes more. After the Mustangs arrived, losses dropped to 2 or 3%. That is, hundreds of bombers saved, thousands of lives. But here is what I think about now, all these years later. Yes, the Mustang saved my life. It saved thousands of lives, American and British aircrew who made it home because a little friend was there to protect them. But we were dropping bombs on factories, on rail yards, on cities, and people were down there, German workers, civilians, families. The Mustang made us better at our job, and our job was to destroy Germany's ability to make war. But destruction is destruction. Death is death. I do not regret what we did. The Nazi regime had to be stopped. The war had to be won. But I cannot forget the cost on both sides. I think about the German fighter pilots, too. They were defending their country. They were brave men. Many of them died in those battles with the Mustangs, young men, just like us. The P-51 was a tool, an incredibly effective tool. It helped end the war faster. It saved lives by making our bombing campaign possible. But it also helped us kill more efficiently. That is the paradox of war. The things that save us are the same things that destroy. I am an old man now. Most of the men I flew with are gone. The empty bunks are permanent now. But I remember them, every one. I remember the boy from Kansas who loved to sing. He went down over Bremen. I remember the co-pilot from Brooklyn who wanted to be a teacher. He made it home but died in a car accident 3 years later, survived the war, and lost to bad luck. I remember the ball turret gunner who was terrified every mission but never showed it. He made it through the war, lived to 92. I spoke at his funeral. And I remember the Mustang pilots, the ones who dove into fights against bad odds, the ones who stayed with crippled bombers, the ones who waved at us from their cockpits and made us believe we had a chance. Some people call the P-51 Mustang the fighter that won the war. That is too simple. Many things won the war. Many sacrifices, many nations, many millions of people. But the Mustang changed the air war over Europe. That is historical fact. It gave us back the sky. It made daylight strategic bombing possible. It helped break the Luftwaffe. We called them our little friends. They gave us hope when we had none. They gave us protection when we were most vulnerable. They gave us a chance to come home. I came home. I got to live my life. I got to see my children grow up. I got to grow old. Not everyone did. So when people ask me about the P-51 Mustang, I tell them it was the most important fighter aircraft of World War II. I tell them it saved thousands of lives. I tell them it was beautiful and deadly and necessary. But I also tell them this: war is not about the aircraft. It is not about the technology. It is about the people. The ones who built them, the ones who flew them, the ones who died because of them, and the ones who lived because of them. The P-51 Mustang was a machine. Metal and fuel and ammunition. But what it represented was something more. It was the moment when we stopped losing, when we started winning, when we started believing we would make it home. And for a 20-year-old kid flying at 25,000 feet over Germany with fighters coming in and flak bursting around him, that belief was everything. I am a fictional voice, but the gratitude I feel is real. The memory of those silver aircraft coming to save us is real. The men who flew them and the men they protected, they were real. And if this story helps you understand what they did and what it meant, then maybe they will be remembered a little longer. That is all we can ask for, to be remembered, to have our story told. The P-51 Mustang gave us that chance. the chance to survive long enough for our stories to matter. We called them our little friends. They gave us back the sky, and I have spent my whole life trying to be worthy of that gift.